Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into the MQ-9 Reaper. This is the aircraft that, well, really changed the game for remotely piloted aircraft, or RPAs.
Absolutely. It wasn't just an upgrade. It was the moment RPAs went from just eyes in the sky to lethal hunter-killers.
We want to explore how that happened, but also why that very success story kind of spells its own obsolescence now.
Okay, so let's start with the leap from its predecessor, the MQ-1 Predator, the big story there. Power. Pure engine power.
Right. The Predator had, what, a 115 horsepower piston engine? Almost like a small plane.
Exactly. Then comes the Reaper, sometimes called Predator B, with a 950 shaft horsepower turboprop. That's a massive jump.
Huge. And that difference is what let it carry 15 times the weapon's payload.
15 times. And fly about 3 times faster. So it wasn't just observing anymore. It could actually do things precisely and persistently. It hit its initial operating capability back in October 2007.
But carrying weapons is one thing. The genius was also in finding and tracking the targets, wasn't it? That sensor suite.
Yeah, definitely. The Lynx multi-mode radar is key here, especially its dismount moving target indicator capability, DMTI.
DMTI. That's the tech that lets operators track people on the ground, right? Even moving really slowly.
Yeah, incredibly slowly, like down to 1 mile per hour. And crucially, it can do that through clouds, fog, smoke, pretty much anything.
Wow. So imagine you're an adversary. That kind of persistent, all-weather surveillance, it must have had a massive psychological impact.
Oh, absolutely. Our sources show groups basically had to abandon faster electronic comms, too risky. They went back to using slow physical couriers.
Which slows everything down for them, introduces delays, paranoia. It fundamentally disrupts their operations.
It really inverted their advantage in some ways. But that global reach, the operators being potentially thousands of miles away, that creates its own Achilles heel.
The C2 link, right? Command and control.
Exactly. You're relying on geostationary satellites for that over-the-horizon control, and physics dictates a delay.
About 1.2 seconds, isn't it, for the signal to go up and back down?
That's it. 1.2 seconds. Doesn't sound like much, maybe.
But in a dynamic fight, like close air support or against a fast-moving, sophisticated enemy.
It's an eternity. It makes the Reaper basically unusable in that kind of high-end, contested environment. It's just too vulnerable to jamming or even being shot down. Physics sets a hard limit.
So its strength against low-tech groups becomes a critical weakness against peer adversaries. But there's another whole layer of complexity here, isn't there? The legal and ethical side.
Right. Because it was so effective in places often outside declared war zones, it generated huge debate. Questions about international humanitarian law, IHL.
Things like distinction telling combatants from civilians in proportionality. Is the military gain worth the potential harm?
Exactly. And even though the strikes were precise, you had critics, even UN special rapporteurs, demanding much more transparency, like release the legal justifications, the targeting rules.
Which leads us straight to why the Air Force sees the Reaper concept itself as, well, outdated for the future fight.
Yeah, the whole idea of a high-value, relatively slow, centrally controlled asset, it just doesn't fit the picture of future conflict against major powers.
So the successor concept, the Collaborative Combat Aircraft or CCA program, is heading in a totally different direction.
Completely opposite, really. Think mass. Think distributed systems. Think cheap, fast, autonomous, or semi-autonomous drones that are, frankly, expendable.
Overwhelm the enemy with numbers rather than relying on one exquisite platform. A huge doctrinal shift.
It is. But before we fully get there, there's an interesting technical footnote the sources raise about the current Reaper fleet.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
The software. There's apparently an urgent need to overhaul its legacy code using something called formal methods.
Formal methods. That's using, like mathematical proofs, to guarantee the software only does what it's supposed to do.
Basically, yes. To lock it down against cyber threats and ensure it performs exactly as intended, nothing more, nothing less, proving it mathematically.
Okay, so here's something for you to think about. If an aircraft like the Reaper, which still has a human firmly in the loop, needs mathematical proof to secure its basic functions, what did that tell us about the challenge of trying to embed complex, nuanced human judgments like proportionality or distinction under IHL into the code of future, fully autonomous weapon systems? How do you prove that code is legally and ethically sound?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? Something to definitely mull over.